What's happening, people? Ayahuasca, of all the psychedelics, of all the entheogens or mind altering substances, whatever we want to call these things, is the most misunderstood because it is one of the least common experiences in the world or realm of psychedelics because it has the greatest barrier to entry, one of the greatest barriers to entry, not because it's so powerful or intense. It's likely as intense or powerful as psilocybin mushrooms, a high dose, or smoke DMT. But the physical toll, the emotional, mental, and physical toll that an ayahuasca ceremony tallies and takes and extracts from the human body and mind and consciousness and psyche is severe, especially over the course of several days. If you stack these ritualistic ceremonies on top of each other with the day break for sanity and health sake. Now, what I want to do is to discuss ayahuasca in general, but to also detail my experience in a 4-session ceremony 2 years ago in Iquitos, Peru, because I believe it's a powerful and an important tool in expansion of mind, expansion of consciousness, and healing. It can be very therapeutic. I do believe that. So there's a lot of mistruths and misconceptions surrounding ayahuasca. So I want to dispel as much of that as I can in this video for your sake, for your benefit. Now, what I'm going to do essentially is talk about what led up to me going and exploring this, because I'm someone that has a strong aversion to anything that is not in my hands, anything that I do not know, and directly anything that does not make rational sense from 1,000 miles away. So I don't have a lot of faith. I don't have ability to trust in that way. So many of my lessons, if not the majority of them, have come from just luck or fortune or chance or someone else pushing the narrative, which is the case in this ayahuasca trip, this trip to Peru, to Iquitos, Peru, to experience ayahuasca at the Spirit Quest Shamanic Sanctuary. My wife wanted to go. I was apprehensive, not because I'm afraid. Obviously, before that I've had spiritual experiences, and after that spiritual experience, I've had several psychedelic experiences. So I was not afraid of my mind. I was not afraid of exploring in that way. I just didn't want to throw up. There was that. I didn't want to be in the jungle for more than a week and eat bland and boring food. So it was really just an aversion to discomfort for something that I didn't think could yield much benefit to me after what I have been through, learned, experienced, and now claim to understand. So because I didn't see much benefit I didn't have much desire, anything that I needed to work on that I didn't believe that I could handle or figure out on my own. So there was no motivation internally to seek out a substance or a therapist or anyone else, because obviously, if you look at this channel, I am the person that I would be seeking out if I wasn't me, in my opinion anyway. So the desire to seek out these things wasn't there. But my wife had a strong hunch, a strong inkling that we needed to go down there. So to support her in her exploration and investigation, we traveled together, and we had a couple's cabin, which the beds are separated. There's no contact. You're supposed to be abstaining from pretty much all stimulation, pleasure, and indulgences for the duration of the shamanic ayahuasca portion of this shamanic ceremony, this 10-day ceremony. So we travel, we book tickets, we search YouTube, mainly my wife, Davina, searched YouTube for safe places. We looked at Kentucky. We looked at other states for some place that was local, more cost effective, obviously. But there was something about the video that we watched. I think it was with the guy that found it, on it with Joe Rogan, Aubrey Marcus. I think he had an interview with a guy down, I know it's a guy now, but at that time it was just a guy to me, named Howard Lawler, down in the Spirit Quest Shamanic Sanctuary. And the conversation, the discussion they had, the interaction, me knowing Aubrey from interviews or just what little I've heard, kind of trusted his opinion to a degree, or at least his perspective that he was trying to come from an honest place. And then the interaction, the words, the way that Howard Lawler, Don Howard, if you will, was speaking to Aubrey, it just seemed like a more trustworthy place. There was a place that was more expensive, more luxurious. We went with the middle, not the cheapest, but the middle of the road cost-wise. But it turned out to be the greatest decision ever when it came to that. I cannot imagine a better experience anywhere else. So deciding upon the Spirit Quest Shamanic Sanctuary, we booked the tickets, we booked the travel, and, it's a little bit of a journey. At that time we were living in Indiana. Obviously we're in Nevada now. We were living in Indiana, and the state of Indiana, and flew down to, I believe, Miami, then flew from Miami to, I think it was Panama City, and then from Panama City to Peru, to Lima, Peru. And from Lima, Peru, there's a journey to travel to Iquitos, which is just a long flight over nothing but forest into the middle of the Amazon rainforest to the largest city not accessible by road or boat, right? So we're down there. We get there. It's an airport, a very small airport. And just to give you some detail of what Iquitos is like, it's a city in the middle of the jungle. So you drive and then you hit river. And if you cannot fly or get a boat, you are bound. Your car will only go so far. And the fact that they have this much transportation, this much life and modernization in the middle of the rainforest is just incredible. So it's an incredible experience knowing that you are literally in the middle of the most isolated portion of the planet that you could probably be in outside of Antarctica or the ocean or something. It was an incredible experience just adjusting from the hustle and bustle or the comfort and security of the United States to this very, very disconnected location. So we're in Peru, we're in Iquitos, we're traveling, we meet up with the group and they have buses ready for us. It's, pretty well run. We meet up with Don Howard Lawler. He greets everyone. And, me personally at that time, this is 2 years ago. So, progress has been made since then. So at that point, I'm still skeptical about the motivation of people seeking these things out, seeking transformation and healing. And I still am to this day. I believe there is a way. I believe these things have their place and their purpose. I don't believe it is to transform you or to do the work of enlightening you or to helping you realize your true self. It is not upon these substances solely. It is mainly and largely you dropping the BS and looking clearly and doing the work with your own hands. You will not be transformed into something better by something else. That is my belief, and to this day, I've not seen it happen. Other than your own power, your own will, power, and work and effort. So there's a lot of people down there. They are all nice and decent people, but I'm very sensitive. Not making any claims, but I can sense a lot of people are hurting, and that bothers me because I believe I've not detailed it fully on this channel yet. I've not said it probably as well as I can. But I believe I know a way to drop a lot of the things, if not everything, that everyone is struggling with, that everyone is dealing with, ultimately, to see themselves clearly, to see the world clearly, and to remove the potential and possibility for prolonged suffering and pain in a psychological and emotional way. I can't do anything about physical pain, but I believe the Buddhists, the Hindus are the closest, or they're on the right path. There are a number of paths, although I follow none, and I profess to follow none, and I adhere to none other than my own, that I navigate through intuition, feeling, and I guess every now and then assess it and analyze it through rational means. So I'm down there, and these people are nice, and everybody's in a good mood. And we get on a boat. We take the buses to a port, in a sense, which is just a floating platform. We get on some boat, very, I guess, minimalist boat, but sufficient in my mind until you see the width, the breadth of the Amazon River, and you're like, oh, we need a real boat. I want to be in something that is powerful, because this is not a river. This is a force of nature, right? So luckily we don't spend too much time on the Amazon River. We get into one of the tributaries and get up it, and we get onto the sanctuary after a 20, 30, 40-minute ride into the forest, deep into the forest. And we pass by some of the other iterations of the Spirit Quest Shamanic Sanctuary that have now been occupied by new tenants. And we arrive at the Spirit Quest Shamanic Sanctuary, which you can see the evolution from smaller, more sparse accommodations to increasingly complex and not necessarily, you can't say luxurious. You cannot say that, but comfortable. That's the best I can say. So we arrive at the Spirit Quest Shamanic Sanctuary, this position up on a hill, set back, looks like most of the facilities and housing and all that stretch back into the forest. So we climb up the docks, we unload, we sat in a circle for a period of time and put our stuff away for a little bit, as I think they put our stuff away for us. But we get in a circle. We all greet each other. We all meet each other in a ceremonial place, not inside a maloka, but just outside under some covering. And of course, first day in the rainforest, of course, we agreed about wildlife. In the daytime, there's a bat stuck up there. So, very big shock for a lot of us Americanized, westernized people, even though many people come from around the world, whether it be Hong Kong, whether it be London, Europe, what have you. But most people were from the United States, although people were from most of the continents other than, I think, the Australian continent. Now, we're in there and we're discussing things. We're communicating with each other, discussing where you're from, as you would. And we have dinner, and then we come back together after we put our stuff away to talk about ayahuasca, essentially. Now we're talking about ayahuasca, and we realize, oh, we're actually about to make ayahuasca. And it is essentially, it's so basic that you believe you're almost being hoodwinked. Like, so we are given, there's 3 giant tubs or buckets of 3 different leaves, and then we have a bunch of roots. And Don Howard explains to, and I'm going to continue to refer to him as Don Howard for the rest of this video, out of respect, out of reverence for what he's done with his life, what he did with his life. Unfortunately, he's passed away since we were down there, and that's a great loss. And I will get to that maybe in this video, maybe in another separate video. But Don Howard explained to us that there is nothing but the leaves and the roots. There are 3 different types of leaves, which I won't get into for a variety of reasons. Legality, probably. It's not legal where I am. So obviously I did this in a legal place. So 3 different types of leaves and a root. That's all there is. The leaves contain the DMT. There's a different, probably chemical formula in each leaf. And there was one type of plant or leaf that was excluded because it has some harshness to it that many of the other sanctuaries use, because it is potent and intense. It kind of almost guarantees an intense experience, although many times the experience can be kind of dark and heavy. So to provide people with more of a healing and therapeutic and less scary, I guess, experience or trip, we'll call it a trip, Don Howard excluded one of the 4 or 5 options that he could have included in the brew. So we had 3 leaves and a root, and we break up the leaves to get them ready to brew, to cook down into a concoction. So basically we pass the bowls around, we have our hands in there, we break up all the leaves, add them to the collective, and then we have the root of ayahuasca, which is what ayahuasca truly is. It is a root, is a vine that you can see has a very, very distinctive pattern, like a very familiar and common pattern in the heart, the meat of the vine, that can be turned into jewelry. It's a very intricate and nice thing to look at. But that's what ayahuasca is. It is a vine that essentially keeps your body, your stomach, from negating the DMT in these leaves. You smash that thing open with a hammer. It does not take a lot of work. It's a very soft vine. You smash that open, get it ready to leach out its chemicals or substances that allow it to help the stomach from negating it, and so that you can absorb it into your bloodstream and get the most out of it. Otherwise, you would have to ingest it, through your lungs or some other way, snort it or something, I'm assuming, because the stomach contains something seemingly that just keeps you from tripping, or we would trip on a lot of things, as my understanding tells me. So we break this up, we get it together, and this is taken by some shamans that are there that we greet earlier, and that tell us that they're going to chaperone us through these 4 ceremonies, which there used to be 5, and he explained once again, for sanity's sake and the health's sake, that it's 5 is very, very, it's a lot to go through. And having gone through 4, I can tell you 5 would have been very tough. 5 would have been taxing, and I'm not sure the benefit would have been there when you do 5 in a week, because you're so worn out after 4 that it's just, you're great. After 4, we're so grateful just for sugar and salt, which you're deprived of during that period. It is a very strict diet, nothing but fish from the river, or fish and vegetables. Only sugar or salt or anything you get will be from nature. If it's not from fruit, you're not getting it. If it's not in your food already, so it's a very bland diet, and I think that is to allow the stomach and body time to adjust to this DMT. The more clean, the less adulterants or intoxicants you have in your body, probably the easier it is for DMT to absorb in your bloodstream. More of a consistent experience potentially. So just full disclosure, I don't follow many rules. That's why I am the way I am. A lot of my understanding and insight is personal, even though it's congruent with a lot of other people. So I did not follow the diet as was recommended for 2 months ahead of time, or 6 weeks, or what have you, although my wife did, because she's a lot more disciplined and and good in that way. So I did not follow the diet. So I can say that I believe that may have affected my first couple of doses, my first couple of ceremonies, and made it more difficult. Although I'm not clear. To this day, I'm not clear exactly whether your diet or is something that dictates or determines whether you actually, which is not a guarantee, just because you take ayahuasca, it's not guaranteed that you're going to experience something, as I really didn't on a couple of occasions, which is not like me. I'm pretty sensitive to everything, very sensitive to everything, cannabis, whatever have you, alcohol, everything impacts me severely. So for me not to experience something because I ate, a Western diet, an Americanized diet, it's kind of strange for me. So neither here nor there. They take the buckets of ayahuasca, they take them to another section, which we see the next day, where they're brewing it down. We watch them put this on the flame, the big cauldron with liquid, and they basically condense ayahuasca down into a few 2 liters of brew, from probably gallons and gallons, from 40, 50, 60 gallons of liquid down to 3 or 4 or 5 2 liters of a very thick, chalky, how do you describe ayahuasca without scaring people away, right? A very pungent and unpleasant flavor is the best way you can describe it. It may not be the worst thing I've ever tasted in my life, but it is in the category of the worst things I've ever tasted, especially after the first time. Once you know what it's going to do to you, it is very hard to take that cup to your lips again. So we do that the next day. But that night we had a discussion, which was really good, just to get comfortable, familiar, to build trust with Don Howard and ask questions. And because I am who I am, because I come from the perspective that I come from, that I had a lot of questions, as I always will. I want to know, I want to understand. And I think initially, I will say this, that Don Howard probably experienced a lot of know-it-alls. He'd probably seen people that came down there with a lot of ego, and just rightfully so thought that that was what I was on. It's not what I'm on. Hardly ever, if ever, am I on an egoic motivated pursuit. So at least I'll check it if I am. I'm not saying I'm not capable, but I will check it as soon as I am aware. And I'm often aware because I'm always checking myself. So I asked about psilocybin mushrooms because that was the most intense and powerful experience visually in that way that I'd had up until that point, a heroic dose. So I asked him about that, and he explained to me that if you look at these substances as entities, inhabited realms, or that ayahuasca is more of a maternal, nurturing, motherly feel or essence or presence, and psilocybin mushrooms are more mischievous, and they call it foxkin presence in there. And I thought that was interesting because it's definitely the experience that I had on psilocybin was like, hey, let's go play, let's show you this, let's try to blow your freaking mind with what we can see. Like it felt like 2 entities, not to get off track, it felt like 2 presences or entities at different times in my heroic dose of psilocybin mushrooms that felt like they were competing to blow my mind, essentially. So he discussed that, and I had a couple more questions, and there was a little bit of friction until he, I think, looked in my eyes and saw that I was trying to understand. I want to know. I want my wife to be safe. I want to be safe. I want to understand what we're doing. We got over that in such a positive and healthy way that it really, I think, united us and bonded us for the rest of that duration, and hopefully for the next couple of years. And if it's possible, after his passing and after my passing as well, we don't know. So he trusted me, and that enhanced my trust in the experience. And I was like, okay, this guy is not, even though he's weird and strange and not like me, he seems to be honest. He seems to not be so confident and so full of himself that he cannot admit where he doesn't know something. And yet he also, at the same time, is very faithful in believing that what he's doing is helpful, beneficial, and good and right. And I can't see myself as being much different. I cannot be absolutely certain that I'm the most right person ever, but I am certain that my intentions are positive and that you can trust me. And that's what he said to me, in a sense, that night and on another night that just united us. And I'll tell you in a second why we had a deeper connection without being aware of it. It's kind of eerie, honestly. So we discussed this, and we talk about psychedelics and we discussed different purposes of ayahuasca, what the experiences are like, what they're likely to do to you. And we went to bed. We had some very, very bland dinner, and then we went to bed. And I was starving. And it's the jungle, and it's loud. So we had that with the intention of the next night, we were to have our first ceremony. So the next day, after waking, early breakfast, looking at the river flowing through, looking at the beautiful structures and I guess housing that we were, the accommodations were just way better than what I expected, although they were not luxurious. That's not what I expected at all, but they were far nicer, far more comfortable than what I expected. I was able to make do without being severely uncomfortable, which is something that's all I really ever ask for. So we have breakfast looking at nature in its realest form, its most pristine form to a degree. We get together for a ceremony later with mapachos. I'm probably butchering that name, but they're just natural tobacco rolled in white paper, very clean white paper. So we're just basically sitting around watching the brew. The fire's lit, and there's a giant cauldron brewing the ayahuasca down. There's a bunch of prayers or chants or whatever said around this, and we're just kind of trying to get in tune with this substance we're about to consume. This, like, when looking back, it was a real communion, but we were inexperienced. Some people had been through this before, so maybe they took it a little more serious. But when you're about to take ayahuasca, the substance, the brew, into your body, you want to have at least blown some smoke on that stuff. Trust me. You want to know where this stuff is coming from. You want to know that this stuff is good and clean. So it was very nice to see that. But in hindsight, I wish I'd taken more time. I was more reverential during that ceremony. But I enjoyed the tobacco a little bit. I don't smoke tobacco, so it got me a little bit of a rush. And I don't really like being in that state. But I did notice that, unlike a cigar that I smoke here, it was much more of a clean state. So everything seemed to be more clean. There was definitely plenty of lizards. We were in the jungle, so we were with nature. So after that boils down, we blow our intentions up on the brew with our smoke. Here's where I differ from, and I will continue to differ probably for the near future, if not till the day I die. That was where you're supposed to place your intentions upon the brew itself, upon the concoction that is ayahuasca. However, I would caution people and suggest that you don't do that. My belief is you don't want intentions. The reason I never have intentions when I go into a psychedelic state or a meditative state, the reason that I don't is because you don't know enough. If you are seeking things, if you believe you need something, if you are not in a homeostatic state, you don't have enough, you're not aware of enough, you aren't sensitive enough, you don't know enough to know what you need. It's what you don't know that you don't know. So I think when we go into these states, these experiences, I think that what we want to do is just to listen, shut the hell up and listen. Whether you're meditating, see what more than you know that you are is saying to you. See what you need to hear. It will tell you, in my opinion, whether it be psilocybin mushrooms, whether it be MDMA, ecstasy, whatever you want to call it, lysergic acid, or ayahuasca or DMT, smoke DMT, whatever you want to do, I think you want to be the student in those situations. And if you understand yourself properly and understand these experiences properly, I think you know that to be true. The intention is kind of saying that you know what you need. You know what you need to work on. This is the problem. You don't know the problem. If the problem is never what you think it is, in my opinion. There's only really two problems that I'm not going to get into. There's only really two problems in life. Two problems that we create and that are a result of us. The rest of life is there's no problems. There's just two problems that every other iteration of problems stem from, in my opinion. So I did not have an intention. I just asked to show me what I need to see, whatever it is. So I'm obviously still skeptical at that point. I had not taken ayahuasca yet. So I'm still skeptical, but I'm like, if there's something here, let me see it. So I blow the smoke on the brew with that intention. Just let me see whatever it is I need to see. I don't know. As far as I'm concerned right now, there's nothing I need to see. I'm good in most ways. There's some things that I would like to be better at or change. But as far as right now, I don't have an intention, nothing that I need to work on in a drastic, severe manner. Just globally enhancing and improving it all, right? So that night, when we go and we have more food, very bland food, and I'm losing weight already. So that night we have our first ceremony, and we were instructed that we would have assistants, guides that would be on the property to secure the property to make sure nobody came off, because we're Americans in the jungle, known to have money, probably luxury items, whatever. Who knows what might happen? Even though we're on a private compound, it's the jungle, right? So we have security roaming the property, and more importantly, we have people to help us to the baño, to the bathroom, in case we need to use it in the middle of the night and we're in an altered state. You don't really want to be wandering around the jungle in that state, right? So the lights are off. You want it to be as dark as possible. So the first night before we go in there, we go into the Maloka, the ceremonial Maloka, where we have the ayahuasca ceremony, which is just a wooden structure with, normally would be a thatch roof, a straw roof, a very basic structure, but this was nicer. It was wooden, very, very nice wood. I don't know what kind of wood it was, but whatever wood it is, it's resistant to moisture and warping and things like that, and insect infestation. So we look at the Maloka. It's pretty large. It's enough room for, I don't know how many people were there, 20 people maybe, and we're picking our spot. I knew I wanted to be planted on the ground. You have the option to be in chairs, seated around a center point with the shamans and some ceremonial altar located near the one corner of the room, which is more of an octagonal, hexagonal structure, the Maloka, that is, the ceremonial building. Now, I put some mats down on the ground, got my sheet from my bed, which is what we were told to do, and I don't know if I got a pillow, maybe a pillow, and some white clothes, something so that we could be seen at night, because the candles will be lit, but during the ceremony, they will be blown out. And it will be pretty dark because you want it to be dark. Light kind of ruins the ayahuasca experience, as it does many, many psychedelic experiences. It diminishes them. So diminishes them, as I'm trying to say. So we lay down. It's nighttime. We're in there. It's a little bit of nerves, I'm sure, from everybody that has never done it before, because you're in the middle of the jungle. I've never tripped or done anything like that in the middle of nature to that degree. So we lay down. We get called up one by one for, to take the cup. When we take the cup, we drink it. It's horrible, but it's not the worst thing. I got it down. No big deal. I was like, this is no big deal. I go back, lay down on my mat, and the shamans that are there, from the native shamans to the area, were Don Roberto, and I'm not sure of the other lady's name, but they have chants or songs that they sing and basically play with a straw thatched like drum in a sense, but they chant and they essentially guide you through the ceremony, guide you through the experience with their Icaros, whatever you want to call them. And at first, you don't understand. You think they're just making noise. It's just some traditional ritualistic thing they believe they must do. But no, it took to the fourth ceremony until I fully understood the importance and the power of the Icaros. And if you're taking ayahuasca, if you're doing this and you don't have a shaman there that knows how to do Icaros, you're not getting the full experience. If you don't have a shaman there that knows how to sing and guide you and knows when to sing certain Icaros as opposed to others, and when to sing nothing, when to be silent, then you're missing out. And that's the key. You want to get the full experience if you're going to do it. Why do these things halfway or in a way that is not the way that they were intended? When you strip something away, in my opinion, without fully understanding, you don't know whether you're hurting yourself, whether you're diminishing or undermining any possibility for a true understanding or true transformation or true benefit until you fully know. It's kind of like stripping THC out of cannabis and saying this is the only thing that we want and need. Maybe there's some other substances, other chemicals, as we know now, terpenes and things like this, that flavor the experience that are beyond THC, the THC count or quantity or percentage. So laying on the mat, listening to your Icaros, there's nothing happening for a while, and then you feel a warmthness, a tingling coming over you, reminiscent to psilocybin mushrooms, a very prickly, not to the degree that psilocybin mushrooms is prickly, but a prickly feeling comes over you, and more of a warmth, and then you're in a state. And it was a very warm state. What did I see the first night? I believe I didn't see anything. It's either the first or second night. I don't believe that I saw anything. But whatever night it was the first or second night. I think it was the second night. We go through this again, but the thing that was difficult about the second time after the first time was the purging. The purging after the first time, I can admit this. The first night I got nothing. I experienced very little, except after I purged, which is severe. And it says, you're puking, you're throwing up. There's nothing you're going to do. You're given a bowl or a bucket with some water in it so it doesn't splash, it doesn't smell too bad. They have candles burning, and you have water and a rag, hopefully yourself, to rehydrate yourself. So once you purge the ayahuasca out of your system, you feel clean, you feel relieved, you feel better, you feel more at peace, and it's calming. And that's without any visions or visuals or altered states that are noticeable to you. So there's a relief, a calmness, and it's maybe just getting this toxic, terrible stuff that feels out of you. But I believe it's probably deeper than that. It's just more subtle in that way. So the next night we go back up, and it's very hard to take ayahuasca the second time. That's what I remember. So the next night we take a break. And then, so let's say we start on a Sunday. We get there Sunday, we break it up, we make the ayahuasca on Sunday. Monday, we do the ayahuasca. Tuesday, we take a break. Wednesday is our next ceremony. Tuesday, we take a break. We discuss what we experienced the first night in a circle. We have time to explore. We go see a tribe or something. We get off the sanctuary. We explore the area, see a tribe, saw 3-4 different tribes, saw some animal sanctuary or something like this. So we got away, a little recreation on the off nights, just to give our bodies a break to recoup and recover, because you're exhausted after purging in that way. You're exhausted after psychedelic trips in this way. So second night, which would have been a Wednesday, I guess, I'm just spacing them out by days. We get down there and we are lining up again for the cup. And like I said, it's difficult once you know what this is going to do to you to put this to your lips again and swallow it. But it's done. And I do remember laying down on the second night and the Icaros kicking in, the candles being blown out, and experiencing like warmth and feeling like it's about to happen. That feeling, that psychedelic state is about to come on, that you're about to travel or your boundaries about to dissolve. It really happened. And I remember witnessing, like just in front of me, like a movie screen, like something very fake and like imagined, almost like stereotypical, like something that you would dream of if you were having some type of weird out of body connected trip to some ancestral place. I see a father and what looks like a son, a young boy standing on a rock in some primitive time, and they jump off into the lake. I have no idea what connection that is to me. And then I see then later I see two women, a younger girl and a middle-aged or a slightly older woman, standing kind of on top of me, actually, as a rainbow crashes into the side of my head. And then I look around, I look up, and they're pointing at the side of my head. It's very, very cool, but also disturbing when you see this, not fully figured and formed, but there. It's just with your eyes open, they're right there. And you're like, okay, nobody else sees this. This is what's going on. Okay, and this is part of it. And then I remember someone making noise. I was in that state. Someone was making noise, and I was like, it's about to happen. I didn't get anything on the first night. It's about to happen, and someone's making noise, and then the thought process works, and it takes you out of your experience. It takes you out of the state that you're in and into some egoic, self-centered, self-focused state of selfishness, in a sense where you are wanting them to do something that to the benefit of you. Maybe they're going through it. You don't know. So somebody was going through something. I could not hear who they were, where they were. They were moaning loudly, and it took me out of it, and I could not get back into that. However, I did purge, and after the purging, I felt great again. Now we have another break, and I walk the grounds. I'm exploring. I'm like, I think I get this. It's cool. This is nice. This is kind of more of just letting go. So the third night, I go in there and I have nothing. I have no experience really whatsoever. It's very light. I purge. I feel great again. That's spaced out. So Wednesday we have the second ceremony, and then Thursday we travel in the boats to visit other tribes and see things and shop or contribute to the local economy, in a sense. That's what I would call it, which I think is very needed. If you come down there, I think you should pay your tributes to the people that allow you to be in their backyard. So we did that. We try to do that with every tribe, purchase something, contribute, to people that are really dependent upon this tourism to exist and to thrive or to prosper or to even have a chance to live a life in a capitalist economy, which is everyone's subject to now, even if you're in the forest. So it would have been a Friday. And on this Friday, I don't know if these days are exactly accurate, but there's a day space in between. So the Friday would have been the third ceremony. I got nothing, even though I purged, felt great. And then we go on a Saturday, travel, and I've seen during this period people walk up and ask for a second cup, or Don Howard asked for people to have a second cup. And this is where I'm getting to the meat and potatoes of this. So I thought about this the day after the third experience. I was like, we're going to have one more. I've not really indulged in the way that I've spent a lot of money. I've come down here, and I don't think I've truly understood, because it's not been that profound or that intense. So I was debating whether I should have 2 cups this time on the last ceremony and the last night, just to almost guarantee that I experienced something, so I can relate and communicate to other people what the deal is with this. So I thought about this all Saturday, and then Sunday, I guess we have our fourth and last ceremony. and maybe a day before we leave. I think it's the day before we leave on a Monday. Now, when I tell you that 2 cups is a lot, I've seen people take 3 and not experience something. So I don't know I literally have seen someone's half my weight take 3 cups, 3 doses, and claim they experience absolutely nothing other than puking. Now, I will tell you, for me, 2 cups was almost immediately a lot. I experienced, like, I took one, and then I sat down on my mat. It's like, let's do another. And I asked for another one. And Don Howard said, I was just about to ask you to come up and have another one, which was fortuitous. Because as soon as I had the second one, I sat down on my mat. I was like, oh, I sat down on my mat immediately. I was like, oh, that was a lot. This is a lot. And I felt it immediately, working in me, coursing through me, growing and extending to all parts of my body. I felt the ayahuasca, coursing through my veins pretty much everywhere. And it was intense. That's the best way I could describe it. It was intense. And then, lo and behold, the Icaros start. The chanting starts. And if I am accurate, if I'm correct about this, I believe that the Icaros, the chanting, is designed, it is geared to literally create the sounds, the beating, the music, creates shapes, it creates entities, it brings things to life in your mind while you're on this substance. And this is very congruent to what I've heard people discuss on Smoke DMT, that they've gone into these realms and seen these elves or these entities, and they have told them that that sound and things like this can create shapes and objects in their world. Well, there seems to be some link, some connection across DMT experiences as a whole, because I'm not using sound to create a world or reality or experience. However, the shamans are. They're singing the right songs at the right time to bring about experiences, and they know when to let you be with silence, I should say. With silence. They know when to let you be with silence, and they also know when to bring it back on if things start getting dark. It's almost like you can feel the room. And I know I'm talking about a lot of stuff that's very subjective, that is not rational or scientifically based or whatever, but this is not there yet. We do not understand what's happening in these experiences yet. We have inklings, hunches, and I don't think we need to directly right now in rational academic ways, because they seem to be reproducible. These people that have developed these things over thousands of years and these traditions passed down seem to have a handle on it to such a degree to where even though we don't understand it scientifically, they understand it from their perspective well enough to make sure you're safe, to guide you, and to ensure that something good happens and little bad happens if possible. So the Icaros start. I'm going to call them Icaros start. And the Icaros start. And I'm trying to do what I did, like kind of in a coward fashion, trying to do what I did very cowardly, trying to do what I did on the second night or the second night, which was to ruin this growing feeling in me that I'm losing power over my cognitive decision-making states and awareness. So as this feeling is growing, I'm trying to think about this, and I realize it's too late. So I just gave up. And as I give up, these entities emerge. Giant entities emerge, holding hands in a circular fashion. This is 100% literal and true of what I experienced. And it sounds crazy, but this is what I experienced. So giant entities emerge, circling in a fashion, walking around the interior of the Maloka. And the Maloka is pretty tall. The middle of it's 20 feet tall or higher, maybe a little bit more than 20 feet. And then the surrounding portions below the peak are still 10, 12, 13 feet high. So these are giant, large beings walking around, very shadow-like beings, walking around in a circle, holding hands. Interspersed between the humanoid forms was more of an animal-like form, more of a quadrupedal form, in between 2 bipedal forms that were like circling around. And as I get deeper and deeper into this state, they begin to take on more solidity, more shape. And this seems very dark, and it's very dark. I was like, oh crap, what is happening? This is not positive. This is not great. Now, I just remembered something that I did want to flash back to before I get any deeper into this. I do remember, once again, the sound is such an important part of it, and you don't want to extract that from your experience. If they're not playing Icaros, if they don't know how to do them, or at least play them for you, have them on tape, CD, MP3, then you're missing something, because I believe it was the second night. Yeah, it was the second night where I experienced the rainbow, the women and the child, the father, lake, rock, primitive jumping into the water. It rained that night. It rained in the rainforest. The rain hitting the rainforest, the trees, the building, the structure. Everyone admitted that it was incredible. Just the sound shaping and cleaning and enhancing your body, your feeling, your emotion. As it rained, those sounds just wafted and reverberated and reverberated through you and echoed through you in such a way that it just almost filled you up. It was like music running through your body, but the most natural and peaceful type of music. Now, to return to me losing it in this fourth ceremony, ayahuasca state, after I'd been weakened, after my body I'd lost, I think I lost more than 10 pounds in that 11-day period, closer to 15. So my body had been weakened. I'd not had my typical food in my diet. I had not had sugar or, many calories at all. So I had nothing to fight. So I let go and I lost myself. I came to, as anyone that's taken psychedelics, a large dose of them especially, knows that you don't necessarily go crazy or you don't lose your mind. You're fully aware. That's the thing. You are fully aware. It's just your reality is transformed. You're transported to another realm where you are you're aware, you're lucid, you're sane. Everything else is crazy. Everything else is wildly different, drastically dramatic, or completely different. So I'm me, a little nervous about what's about to happen. And the first time, admittedly, that I experienced fear in that way, concern for myself, and for a while. And it was kind of nice to feel again, just to care about what happened to me in a selfish way, which I was struggling to do. But I understood why, because as my eyes closed and I find myself coming to in another realm, I realized that I no longer have my body in this realm, that I'm exposed, that the physicality, the gruff exterior, the imposing nature that some people may believe that I carry around in the day-to-day that can protect me in everyday societal ways from most aggression, most things, just because people are, we judge a book by its cover. So none of that is available to me in this realm. I'm naked. I am bare. I have no physicality to protect me. I cannot punch. I cannot kick. I cannot fight. Where in this state, this realm, I at least have a fighting chance, right? That's always have a fighting chance as long as I'm healthy and sane and okay, right? So in this realm, I just have my mind. I just have my experience, my consciousness, my awareness. So I knew I was vulnerable. I was vulnerable in the most way. There was nothing. I had no tools to defend myself in this realm. So I find myself looking around. I think it was a very Na'vi type, Hobbit-like structure or dwelling that I found myself in. Like, it was not tiny and it was not modern, but it wasn't dirty and it wasn't primitive in the way that we normally think of primitive as being filthy and just coupled together. It was very nice and comfortable, but it was just very natural. Everything seemed natural. Everything seemed from the earth, like a home grew for you more so than you constructed a home. That's what it felt like, if I'm being accurate and being honest. But I was tiny in this realm, completely tiny, and like an insect. That's what I felt like an insect. And it's almost like I could see other insects crawling around, although I could not connect with those insects. I kind of had a hunch that those insects were other people. And that's what it was explained to me by this presence that came on very, very strong, very stern, like very imposing, just leaning on me in a sense, almost as if to say, drop your toughness, drop your ego. Here, none of that works. You need to let go. You need to let go and understand that you are vulnerable. You can be hurt. If I choose to, I will smash you to bits if I want to. Now, accept that reality and let's move forward. And it seemed to not want to ease up. It does feel maternal. It does feel female, this presence. But it is not playing around. There's no joking around seemingly in it, although it is not angry. It is just like a mother who is being stern with her child that she loves dearly. Like there's not a time for joking, and she is not playing with you, but there's nothing but love here as well. So you're afraid, but not in the sense that you would be with a stranger or another person. So that the best intentions were there, although you were afraid of incurring the wrath of this female, this presence. So it was explained to me that we'd screwed up by this presence. We had not so much a discussion, but I listened for a while. It leaned on me and it showed me, first and foremost, the mess that we make when we take psychedelics. And as far as this experience goes, if it's accurate that we are transported into another realm, consciously, psychically, somehow, we are no longer here. We're now in something else. But whatever the essence of us is not bound to this realm in this way. So when we take psychedelics and mind altering substances and we go into these places, from what I understand and what I believe this entity, this presence was trying to tell me, is that we act like children, we come in like a mess. And that when we have bad experiences and bad trips, this is because we don't come with reverence and respect into these realms. If you have to think about it, the way it was explained to me, but it's crazy, I know that I'm saying this, but it's explained to me by maybe my own mind, but potentially by something else, that we're like bugs when we come there, that they could smash us anytime. And oftentimes, children of their realm get a hold of us when we come to their realm and play with us and tear the wings off without any ill will and ill intent, just out of like a child would do potentially without understanding and knowing that it's causing harm. But if they determined to or decided to, an adult in that realm could destroy us if they wanted. It would hurt us and harm us. They could hurt us and harm us to a severe degree. But if we show reverence and respect, really very recently, if you would not say today, which is probably why I'm making this video, it's almost like we are better there. We are more tolerable, more pleasant creatures when we're in their realm and less likely to incur wrath, less likely to be abused or harmed. If we do it properly, if we come with the right respect and reverence and in the right state and condition for the right reasons, then we can actually be beautiful there and be appreciated and adored and supported and cared for there. So it's kind of like if you don't show reverence and respect and you go into these induced states and you're transported to these realms, believing you know what's up and what time it is and you're going to see what it is and mess around in their realm, you might get smashed and destroyed and beat up and come back here all torn up and have gained nothing other than pain and suffering. But if you go properly, you could be supported and buoyed and have it all explained to you from a perspective that is not havable, that is not possible in this state. So once we got past that, once I agreed, I see we're a mess. We're humans. We're a mess. We do things the way we do them. And we act like children in many ways. I get it. And it made me promise, which hence the 2 years since that 4-session ceremony to talk about ayahuasca publicly on a recorded format. It made me promise that I would speak of ayahuasca and substances like this with reverence and respect. And I'm doing that now because I'm not going to take these things again and roll the dice that this is real, or because, as you know, I'm open to all possibilities. I believe that I know what it is. I don't believe in the same thing that these tribes, these shamans believe. I don't believe that this realm that we experience in this other state is anything different than the realm that we experience in a normal and sober state. Just a different version, a different location, maybe a different perspective, and a different, I guess, not essential reality, but a different level of reality or a different formation of reality, a different seed or circumstance of reality, where ours is physical and structured and linear and rigid. Maybe theirs is more open. I have no idea. But I believe that there's something deeper underpinning everything. So while I'm not in complete agreement with shamans and people that believe psychedelics are some other realm or source to some deeper truth that you cannot access in a sober state, sitting still, breathing, I don't agree with that. I believe that anything that you can learn there, you can learn equally well or probably far better on your own directly. I believe these things are to enhance and flavor and expand what you know, what you believe to be possible, and to keep you from becoming too rigid and too confident and definite on what is. It's to humble you in a sense and to grant you perspective, which is why I believe that they are beneficial to people nearing the end of their life or dealing with depression, because it grants you such stark and severe and intense perspective that everything is put into its proper context. You are no longer burdened by being so close to the problems and issues and burdens and sufferings and trauma that you're experiencing and enduring and maintaining. You're no longer so close to it that you can see it clearly and say, okay, I see that. That's there. That's not good. It sucks, but it is what it is. And in total, in the grand scheme of things, it's still pretty damn good. It's still perfect in a sense. Just like a child, a loss to a child is inconsequential to an adult. They don't have the perspective to see that this thing is not of the value that they believe it to be, and they don't have the perspective to see that this thing can be replaced in many cases and situations easily. So A loss to a child is undue. It is burdensome. It is disproportionately injurious. But to an adult, a child's loss is not even a blip on the day, hopefully. So in this state, in this induced state, after we move on, after I promise and guarantee that I will show reverence and respect, then we move on to other things, things that are directly related to me. It seemed like it had something it wanted to say for me to communicate potentially, or for me to know, to share, maybe because it believes, maybe I honestly believe because it knows that I'm coming with a different intention, a different perspective on all this. And maybe I'm someone that people may listen to if they say these things. And it also knows that I'm not someone that's afraid of saying things like I'm talking to something that's existing. I'm not afraid of admitting that I have experiences in these states and where I feel like I'm communicating with something, even though I'm not, because it knows that I'm not going to make a hard claim that's going to make me a liar by saying that I know what it is. Absolutely. So after we come to an agreement, it eases up. Ayahuasca eases up a great deal. And I felt like was trying to trap me in this realm by showing me some of the dopest stuff I've ever seen in my life. So we move on from these lessons about humanity and the way we act. We move on to something personal, and it's about the way we live. And I think ayahuasca is much more personal than psilocybin and a lot of these other things that I think are just so expansive and so universal that they aren't related to anybody or even any race or any time period. So ayahuasca seemed to be very concerned with me and us right now, and me more so seeing and understanding and accepting what I already believed and knew to be true. So what ayahuasca did is it showed me what things may have could have been, or what things may have been, in a damn near utopic environment where not humanoids, not humanoid beings, but not completely human creatures on this planet, what I'm assuming on this planet, had everything they needed at their fingertips. So society in the way we understand it today, civilization in the way we understand it, it's just absurd. It's an absurd construct. It is so unnecessary when an environment provides and supports totally and completely. It's like, why are you doing all this? So essentially what ayahuasca showed me was very human-like beings in like canoes or boats laying on the banks of a lake or a river, and just chilling and lounging. And these beings in a boat, which I kind of seemed to be in with them, one of them would just pull food out from the river, fish or some type of animal, and bite and eat it. And so food was just so plentiful, you just pull it out of the river. And the environment provided shelter and support. Therefore, there was nothing left to do other than to do what you thought you should and want, which was largely exploring yourself, the environment, having sex, eating food, lounging, relaxing, and enjoying the bounty, the Garden of Eden in a sense. But it was so vivid, it was so colorful, it was so dramatic and saturated that it seems more real than reality as it seems right now. And this felt kind of too alluring. So I already knew that I was dealing with a very deep and intense experience. So I was like, let me go ahead and move out of here. So I was like, I get you. This is dope. We could have had a Garden of Eden. Let's not stay here too long before we end up being here forever. Some psychotic break or something. So we move on to look at humanity as a whole. And I'm looking at humanity in the grand scheme, total timeline. And ayahuasca is trying to explain to me in this sense is like, humanity is ants. Don't you understand? You messed up. You overcomplicated things with your money. So it's showing me today. It showed me seemingly like an alternative past, or a real past where the earth was a cornucopia of everything that a human being could ever want or need, or a being could ever want or need, and the current state where we've created money, where we've imagined lack in every way, where everybody's desperate, everybody's fearful, where scarcity reigns supreme, that irrational scarcity of needs and necessities, and the basic components of a well-lived and quality life, like shelter, companionship, community, purpose, things like this, health. We are ants, in a sense, according to ayahuasca, that have broken off into not following the queen, to doing their own little pocketed region thing, when where it should be one hive, one colony, where you have splintered into thousands, if not millions of colonies, where a single ant that isn't the queen, and not saying that we should have some king or leader, but just the king or queen should be potentially the hive-minded collective of humanity, where we have come to some loose or strong agreement upon a direction and we move toward it in a unified fashion, in a sense. Just talking about how powerful we could be if we would work together to achieve the goals that we wanted and to eliminate the obstacles and suffering that we experience. In a sense that we are one of the most powerful thing together, but to look at ourselves as ants in the lack of might, the lack of strength and resources and intelligence we have individually. So in a sense, we've created, according to ayahuasca, in my opinion, as I'm interpreting it, we've created a system that keeps us alive, even though we are not cohesive, we are not working together, which really robs us of our strength and just makes us domesticated, factory farmed animals. We are not natural. We are not vigorous or wild in our natural state. We are just kept alive in a docile, artificial state, even though we don't work together. So we found a way to keep ourselves extant without being truly human and in the truest way, the best way possible. So that's why we have all the suffering, is because we're not together. We are not using the might of humanity, which is a terrifying thing if you look at it in a psychedelic state. It's terrifying what we could do in a good way. And just terrifying to think, and just terrible to think of the heights of the possibilities and potential that we have at our hands if we would just use and utilize and mobilize just a portion of our collective energy. But that's not the case. So I was shown a number of other things about today's world, things that were directly personal and relatable. Even though I don't fully understand them, it just gave me enough to understand that I was making mistakes in ways that I was not even aware of. And the main mistake that I was making was not moving. I was not acting on things that I knew to be true. I was not sharing enough or expressing enough, and I was fearful, even though I knew there to be nothing to be fearful of. I was not necessarily fearful, but I was apprehensive, knowing that the collective power of ants could be mobilized and turned against me if they saw me as a threat. So there was a self-preservation motive there that was kind of kinking me up, and it showed me that I know the problem. At least I believe I know the problem, and that I believe that I know the solution, or one of the solutions, or potential fix to a portion of the problem, and to apply that. So ayahuasca showed me a great deal. It showed me about myself and the fact that I needed to move, and it showed me about humanity. But these are things that I already knew. So the main benefit, in my opinion, to ayahuasca is post the dramatic and profound experiences. And now other people had some very dark ones. Some people had very beautiful and colorful ones. What I will say is that after the fourth ceremony and we came together and discussed what we underwent and saw, it's pretty clear that ayahuasca is incredibly individualistic. It's incredibly personal, where I've heard people that I've never met in my entire life, many, many people, discuss psilocybin mushrooms and their experiences. And I'm like, yeah, I understand that. I saw that too. That's very much like what I know. Now, ayahuasca, the common thread between people that take ayahuasca and experience it and get benefit from it is not in what you see when you're in the experience. It's post-experience. There's a period of time, if I'm going to tell you what I think ayahuasca is best used for, there's a period of time after your experience on ayahuasca, especially if you do 4 and 10 ceremonies in a proper setting, where you will have space to make changes, really, really significant and drastic changes. I think that's the common thread amongst people that have taken ayahuasca. It's not in what they see or know individually, it's what they're able to do after that individually. It gives you a space, a period of time to make changes where the apprehensions, the obstacles, the patterns are minimized, or the pressure on them is alleviated or eased up to where you can move. If you decided that you don't want to drink anymore, if you decided that you don't want to do this anymore, you have every incentive and everything at your disposal, seemingly, most of everything, except for the environment that you're going back to at home, to make that happen. Now, the reason I say this is because what it seems to do, and unlike psilocybin mushroom, where you do get a great perspective shift on psilocybin, what ayahuasca seems to do is give you a perspective shift on your issues and problems. It's like, this is something that is hurting you. It makes you so sensitive and so, in a different way than LSD or in a different way than MDMA and ecstasy, it makes you so sensitive to unnaturalness. That's what I would call it. That you cannot accept something that isn't good for you, that isn't conducive to a blissful existence. So because you are finding it hard to accept what you believe to be wrong or not right or not natural or not human in a sense, then most of the things that we're doing in our life are easier to drop, whether it be smoking, drinking, doing drugs, working in a particular location, in a particular relationship. If it does not feel right, there's a lengthy period of time, several weeks to several months, if not more, where you have freedom and an ability to make a very drastic shift in your life. And I think that's the benefit. It's not necessarily therapeutic as if you've worked on all these things. It's just at the end of therapy, you should be able to make, I've never experienced or undergone therapy and formally in that sense, but you would think that after a year or two of therapy, they claim that ayahuasca is like 10 years of therapy in a single night. You would think after 10 years of therapy that you would be ready and able to transform or change something in a significant way. And that's what this seems to be. You've gone through it, you've looked at it, you've seen it, and now it's up to you after this to do something about it, to make a shift, to make a change. But that ability is there, where in my experience, it was not there in the same way beforehand. So I believe that seeing the things that I was shown in the light that I saw them in under the induced experience allowed me to make some shifts and some changes in my life when I got back to the United States. So one of those things was to change professions, or at least change the way I worked in my profession, which I did, and to change locations to a location that I thought was more conducive to my aesthetic experience of life and to my social and professional experience and spiritual experience of life. So we moved from the Midwest in Indiana to Nevada to Las Vegas, where it's just more conducive to the way I want to live and feel like it's right, and my wife and I want to live right now. So that was a major shift, and my wife can speak to her own experiences and her changes on her own. I won't speak for her, but as I see it, that is the common thread. It is not in the experience and, oh, this is a portal to a new realm or a new world, because seeing a jaguar, which I definitely did, I saw a big cat in the initial phases of the experience. I don't know what correlation that has to our life or what benefit that has to seeing these things, but having the conversation, having the discussion, looking at this with someone that truly understands in a sense and is already ahead of you on these things in a deeper way, whatever it is that you're working through seems to be beneficial. It's like talking to someone that gets you and knows and has been through it before. It's like someone that's run a marathon and you're about to run a marathon, run an Ironman, and about to start a business. You know what I mean? Like, you really want to hear what they have to say. And what they have to say is directly related and relevant and useful to you in your life. That's how I'll end that. So where do you go? Where do you experience this? Where do you get into ayahuasca? Well, now that Don Howard is no longer with us, now that the person that I would have recommended without hesitation has passed away, unfortunately, this year, or I'm sorry about that, late last year, I don't know. I don't know where to tell you to go. But I can tell you this, that if there's anyone that you can find that is from the Don Howard, the Howard Lawler tree, anyone that you can find that he's recommended or has said good words about or has decided to associate himself with, you probably trust that person to a degree. I can't vouch for them with my words, but I can say that is a path or pursuit, is to look at the Spirit Quest Shamanic Sanctuary, look at Howard Lawler, look at Don Howard, and see who he dealt with, who he fooled with, and if they're now engaging in the ayahuasca rituals or practice or in shamanic practices and disciplines, and they were doing this while he was alive and he's approved them or said that they're a person that's right and decent and good to do these things, then there probably are. They probably are. I don't meet many people who I connect with on this level. Almost never do I. And we connected. So, and I don't think I'm a bad judge of character. Not only a judge of character, but I think I can see things that people likely think they're hiding just because I'm blown out. I'm obliterated in a sense, with my expectations and notions. I'm open. So when I vouch for this man and what he's done, I'm to a degree vouching for the people that he's decided to associate with. Even though I cannot speak for them directly, I will say that look for that. Look for the tree and follow that tree. And the branches from the tree that is Howard Lawler, Don Howard, and his shamanic discipline and gifts and efforts and works is likely going to be the most trustworthy tree that I can speak to. Now, when it comes to psychedelics and in general, once again, I don't think that these things are things I don't think that they're things that we want to take lightly. I don't think that we want to come in with too many intentions. I don't think that microdosing is the way. I don't think that I'm more from the Terrence McKenna camp. I don't know if I've said that before, but I'm more in agreement with him than I am with many of these people from Silicon Valley or what have you that believe that they understand that they know what they need to do. They believe that they know what needs to be done, and they just need a little assistance, a little boost, a little help, a little aid to get doing it, whether it be microdosing LSD, whether it be microdosing psilocybin, cannabis, or ayahuasca, what have you. I don't think you want to diminish what is supposed to be transformative and infrequent by using it every day as a supplement, even though I'm very much like Terrence McKenna in the fact that I probably abuse cannabis in a way that I would like not to. I like to treat it as a sacrament. But the things that are a little bit more intense and profound in their experiences, I think we should use them infrequently because they're not nutrition. They're not supplements. They are medicine. We take them periodically to ensure our health, to stave off disease, scurvy, things like this. But we don't, maybe not scurvy, but we don't want to take them every day because it diminishes the impact. We normalize to them, we acclimate to them, and they lose their impact, and they are no longer available to us unless we take some severe dosage, and even then they may not be. They're no longer available to us as medicine if we use them as a supplement, if we use them as a multivitamin in a sense. I think it's arrogance to believe that you know how to use psychedelics instead of looking at psychedelics to uncover, to inform, and to educate you on reality of your life or just to give you a perspective shift. Go in there with the best intentions. Go into these experiences, in my opinion, with an open mind and to see what you see, knowing that you know almost nothing. That's the way to go. Not because you know that you need a code or you need to get this built or you need to achieve this goal and this would help. The worst thing to do is to improve yourself to such a degree where you're okay with yourself, but never to be right. You know what I mean? That's the worst thing to do. Look at yourself cleanly, look at yourself accurately. Don't try to be okay with yourself. Just try to be okay. And then you don't need to work on accepting yourself. There's nothing to accept because it's right and good at all times. You can't remove that, but you can come to a realization if you're just working on being okay with yourself that at some point you may not be okay. And then you're still in the same spot. And microdosing has not been of a benefit. It just helps you accept what you may not have needed to accept or should have accepted. Psychedelics in general, I think, are very profound. They offer a lot of benefit, but treat them with reverence, treat them with respect, treat them as if they are medicine, as if they can save your life in a sense, if you really, really need them. If you find yourself in a bind, in a pinch where your normal exercise, your normal meditation, your normal way of life and progress and investigation and learning and development and evolution is not sufficient for you, why not? Why not explore and push that envelope in a particular area? It can't hurt because what you're seeking for is unboundedness. What you're seeking is unboundedness. So pushing an envelope in a particular area only expands your perspective and your notions on what's possible on yourself. So you can't really go too far. Going too far is obliterating any boundary in any envelope until you're just universal and one, which is possible to be damaged or harmed at that level. Physically, yes, but in the sense that we're most concerned with, no. And with that perspective, your notion and concern for the physical is altered and shifted to a more objective, a more adult and enlightened state anyway. So psychedelics are great. Ayahuasca is intense, it's powerful, and it takes a toll on you. I hope you find what you need. I hope you find what you want out there. I hope you find some safe place to explore, to investigate these things. Do not do this in an office building. You're going to lose a great deal. Do not do this with someone that claims things definitively, that claims to know something to an absolute, to be right and other people to be wrong. From my experience, these are not things, whether they be shamanic people or just everyday people that are spiritually professing some knowledge or expertise. You cannot know things in this way to an absolute, to a certainty. The experiences are not reproducible enough. They're not consistent enough. And you can't trust them enough. They benefit us, I do believe. But drawing conclusions and inferences on reality and connections to truth physically and beyond is not what I think we should be doing in psychedelic experiences. At least not right now until we get a handle on ourselves and a handle on our psyche and our perspective and on the world. But I do think we should use them. That's my personal opinion and assessment. So I hope you've enjoyed this. I hope you've enjoyed this discussion, this explanation of psychedelics, of ayahuasca. It's been a minute I've been sitting on this. I've been thinking about this for a while because I didn't want to misspeak. I didn't want to talk about this in a way that I thought might be harmful or misleading. There's a lot more to be said. There's a lot more that can't explain. It's something that I would reserve, in my personal opinion, I would reserve ayahuasca for one of the later experiences of my psychedelic journey and exploration. That's my personal opinion. It would be later on the list, if not last on the list. Namely because I think the other ones are more accessible. They show you things, they expand you in a sense. Ayahuasca, in once you've been expanded by psilocybin mushrooms or MDMA or LSD or something like this, or smoke DMT, I think you're more ready to accept the lessons that ayahuasca has to offer. Ayahuasca is for adults, and I think the other substances can help mature you in this conscious, egoic and spiritual way, non-egoic and spiritual way, this non-dual way. And you want to do that in a place and in a location that you trust, with a person that you trust, that you know has your absolute best intention at heart. Somebody that's been doing this hopefully for several years, if not several decades, that does not claim to know things absolutely and is willing to admit that they don't know much of anything, but their intention is true. Their intention is to help. That's who you should be looking for. So let me know what you think about this video. Let me know what you think about what I've said. If you have any questions, please leave them below. Send them to me directly at lexbenjamin.com. Questions at lexbenjamin.com, I should say. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you want to see more videos like this. If you enjoy topics and discussions around things like psychedelics, consciousness, spirituality, physics, artificial intelligence, technology, things like this, things that are impacting our world and hold the potential to enhance us in our lives, enhance our experience of this existence. So once again, thank you for watching. I hope to see you on the next one. I hope you have a great day. Later.